my sleeping patterns were disrupted. A whole bunch of physiological sensations, symptoms. I mean, panic attacks during the day were awful. I would exit a meeting. I would go to the washroom and I would run my hands under some cold water and wash my face. My expectations at that point was getting through a day. That was the best I could do, was getting through a day. And that's what was so troubling for me. It was like, is that really success for me, is getting through a day? We all know that what stress plays in the workplace and the toll it can take, but we're afraid to talk about it. And I wasn't the first manager that came in there. There was this sort of idea that there was this burnout period because there was 2 or 3 before me that I knew were off for the very same reason, and they didn't come back.
I could hide from my staff. I could cancel meetings, and I hated it. I knew that it wasn't right. I knew that I wasn't functioning, but I didn't know how to get out of it.
I knew at the scene that it was more than what I had really wanted to expose myself to. But you really don't have any choice when you get to a call. You're exposed to whatever the call is. And that call, as soon as I started to get myself involved in it, started to do damage to me. And I knew it. I was aware of it immediately. As soon as I walked up to the scene, it was an individual, it was a child that had been murdered. I went back to the fire hall, and there was really no one I could turn to at that point. I didn't really feel like I wanted to express it, but there was no one reaching out to me.
I was responsible for investigating the safety of the kids, and there was a call where the allegation was that the father had threatened to kill his children and his wife. And so I investigated that process, and ultimately the father did kill one of the children. So I was really, really shaken by that whole event. And months progressed, and of course I started to suffer a lot of the trauma symptoms, you know, the difficulty sleeping and hypervigilance and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I actually was told by a manager, you know, you must not be able to handle this work then, you know, because this is bothering you so much. So, you know, you should just find different work. And this was after doing it for 10 years, and I was, you know, a senior investigator.
Not understanding what the process was or what I was experiencing a lot of anger. I didn't realize that I needed help. I knew I needed something, but I'm not sure that I realized I needed the help I needed at that time.
At some point it was almost like I was contagious. Like what had happened to me was what every social worker feared, you know, that they were supposed to protect kids and that they may not do a good job and a kid might die. And so since it happened to me, they didn't want anything to do with me. And I became more and more isolated. At one point I actually said, maybe I should file a WCB claim, you know, because I'm really suffering. And my manager said, well, you weren't hurt. You know, that you weren't injured. So, like, what do you mean? You don't have to do those, and wouldn't let me file a claim.
We are the individuals in shining armor. We are the knights. And so if there's a kink in our armor, it looks bad on us as a group and individually. You don't want to let anyone know that you're working with that there's something that's bothering you or anything else. You don't want anyone to feel that they can't rely on you for any situation or circumstance. Talking about it is a huge release for us. And like I say, with some of the disturbing calls we go to, you don't want to discuss it with your family. And if you can't discuss it with your coworkers, who can you discuss it with? So now I really firmly believe that we need to start to discuss it a lot more at work.
So if I had my boss telling me I'm not doing a good job, I would have immediately, I think, gotten the help that I needed, because that would have spurred me to do something. Whereas because she wasn't ever addressing it directly, it was always sort of going around and kind of making suggestions about how I could elevate my mood rather than deal with the underlying issues. I never really did deal with it. I just let it keep happening until I hit a wall. There was a day where I hit a wall, and that's when I decided I had to do something.
Psychologically, yes, you need the ergonomics in a workplace. You need lighting. You need all of those wonderful things. Why is mental health still thrown out the window? I don't understand that. Let's bring that in. Let's bring that in now.